Hello, Betty Benededley here, and today I would like to take you guys on a little journey and tell the story of how the artwork for the upcoming EP From the Mesa came to be. So let's see, it was a few months into quarantine, and I was living in my van, hanging around Taos, New Mexico, mostly parked at a friend's Earthship. I had just recorded my first performance of the Mescaline prayer song, and one afternoon I was catching up on the phone with dear old friend AJ Raglow, an awesome musician from Tucson. Check out his band, Dead West. I'll post a link below to that. And we were talking about how the unprecedented solitude was impacting our music making. And AJ says to me, Betty, it's really strange. The songs that have been coming to me during quarantine have felt really different, almost more like prayers, really stripped down and personal and intimate. And usually all of my songwriting gets channeled into my band, Dead West, but something about these feels different, and I kind of want to endeavor to record them solo. And of course, as he's telling me all this, my jaw is dropped because I have been experiencing the exact same thing. I share my little journey with him, and, even mentioning that I had named one of the songs the Mescaline prayer song. The next day, I remember getting on Facebook, and a good girlfriend of mine had just posted a little rant about how, even though she usually has a lot to say and a big mouth to say it with, something about this time was really drawing her in and causing her to be quiet, and was calling for a lot of listening. And again, I had this sensation like she was just taking the words right out of my morning journal. And I felt like everywhere I looked and listened, I was receiving these reminders that even though we may be in physical isolation, we are all so often experiencing the same thing, feeling the same emotions, thinking the same thoughts, even down to the same word choice. The universality of our common experiences, even when we don't realize how shared of an experience they might be, was really front and center for me. And ironically, this was happening at a time when our minds may be tricking us into believing that we're more isolated than ever. I guess to put that in other words, I was really coming to terms with the fact that feelings of disconnect and isolation are truly illusions. We are all connected all the time, always. So one night I was hanging out on the Rio Grande Gorge, camping by myself and thinking about such things. And I felt like I kind of downloaded this message that there is a visual metaphor for these ideas of universality and common shared experience and interconnectedness. And that visual metaphor is kind of moving away from things like the face that emphasize uniqueness or particulars, moving away from hyper-realism, moving towards forms, silhouettes, shadows, archetypes, symbols, kind of like the common denominators, the reductionist core form, and those symbols that we can all internalize and relate to on our own terms. So I resolved that if I ever published these prayer songs, that I really didn't want my face anywhere on them. I instead wanted shadows or silhouettes or forms to be featured. And lo and behold, the day came much sooner than I ever imagined that these songs were being recorded. And on one of the final nights of the recording week, I was on top of the Earthship, and dear friend and audio engineer Brett Tomeden took this photo of me, and I decided that that should be the silhouette form featured on the album. Later that same week, I took another photo from the same spot on top of the Earthship studio overlooking the Taos Mesa, and I realized that there should be more than a human silhouette. I also wanted the land that inspired so much healing and creativity to be referenced. I wanted a literal silhouette, or reference in this case, to this specific land. So from that photo, I took the horizon line. The final element that I really wanted to include was a triangle, and that's because there's 3 songs on this EP. 3 of us came together to bring these songs to life, myself, Brett Tomeden, and Braden Guess. Everything was just occurring in threes, a lot of trinity going on, and so triangle was the symbol that I latched onto for this EP. So with those elements in place, I began to play with color and form. Also around this time, the wildfires were tearing through California and New Mexico and Colorado. So at some point I decided that the land should be red. I've also always been inspired by Polish poster artists' interpretations of American Westerns. There's a fascinating political history there. It's quite subversive. I'll include a link for more info on that. So I moved in this direction that I took from those artists, which is minimalism that utilizes really strong symbolism to pack a punch. So finally I had landed on the form and I had all of these elements in place, but it still somehow felt a little hollow to me. And I realized what I was calling for was collaboration. I wanted that magic spark that only seems to exist in the spaces between people creating together. So my dear friend Abby Apple collaborated with me to help bring in this last little bit of the design and bringing the design to its final form. So there is a little bit of backstory on the art and the process. I hope if you're watching this video, hearing some of that backstory and process inspires you in some way in whatever your artistic endeavors are. This EP will be released in March, so stay tuned, and thanks as always for tuning in.